Welcome once again to Broker's Playbook, and I'm here today with a friend of the REC and a friend of Broker's Playbook. It's Paul D'Abruzzo from Rockstar Real Estate. Paul, welcome to Broker's Playbook, my friend.
Thanks for the invite. I'm glad to be here.
We're happy that you're here because we're going to be able to share your story, specifically how it relates to your everyday business, the path you chose in real estate. And I'm a big advocate for all those who know me. I've been in the investment real estate space my entire career. I'm a commercial broker, and I broker, like, my personal book of business is hotels, land redevelopment, and other commercial asset classes as multifamily. But I have taken a big part of my career dedicated to train my agents on my team, as me being part of the Royal LePage banner. I specifically, over the last few years, designed a program for Royal LePage agents to be able to get into the work that you've been doing for over 15 years. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you're with a very well-respected group, Rockstar Realty, you're out of Oakville, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Those two brothers, Paul and Nick?
Tom and Nick.
Tom and Nick, excuse me. Tom and Nick, I have followed for a long time. I've only had the pleasure of meeting them a couple of times, and maybe I'll try to bring them onto the Playbook podcast soon as well. But you have a very interesting story. And when my team said, what do you think of bringing Paul D'Abruzzo on? I was like, well, tell me a little bit about him. You went from firefighter. There's a cool origin story here, because it takes a lot to kind of give yourself to civil service in that way. Mm-hmm. It's not a normal job. You're not, working at the DMV or.
No.
So I want you to take some time and just tell me a little bit about how that all went down. Let's try to get that human factor of how your life evolved into what you do today.
Yeah. I started as a fireman in the city of Toronto, and it was always a childhood dream. Like a lot of kids. It took a lot of work and effort, and trying and failing to get on the job. But it was a proud day when I did. But at the same time as I was beginning my career as a fireman, I was also beginning my career as an investor, not as a realtor. So I started as an investor first, buying my first property back then in Hamilton, before Hamilton was...
And where did you live?
I lived in Toronto.
You lived in Toronto,
in
and how old are you at this point?
I was 24 years old.
Okay. What made you... let's try to even break that down as you're going to move down the story. 24 years old, do you come from a family of investors?
No.
Do you come from humble beginnings?
Yeah. Humble beginnings. My parents were divorced when I was 6 months old. I grew up with my grandparents in North York, more specifically in Jane and Finch, kind of the old Italian neighborhood back then. Yeah. And humble beginnings, for sure. So, I saw investing in real estate as kind of a way to give my next generation a better start.
Sure.
I didn't want to keep those humble beginnings, let's say.
But you're 24. Was there a book you read? Was there a mentor that was involved?
Yeah.
How does a 24-year-old step out of the club and go into real estate investing?
Yeah, no, I didn't step out of the club for a while. But it's a good story. We can go back further. Yeah, I read a lot of books. I still have most of them on my bookshelf. So when I do my little podcast, you see my bookshelf in the background. So I read about 280 books between like 18 and 22 kind of thing. That led me to go to lots of conferences and seminars as any normal
You dove into the world of it.
Yeah, you just dive in, and you didn't know what the hell was going on, right? So good story. I went to a conference here in Toronto. It was called Millionaire Mind Intensive, from a guy, actually also a Toronto native, T. Harvecker, put that on. And at this conference, he sold a bunch of other conferences. And I bought a ticket to another conference called Never Work Again. How to create passive income streams so you never have to work again. So I fly to California, I land at LAX. I jump a little puddle jumper to Palm Springs, I think. And we get in this conference. There's like 1,000 people there. And they do this thing where it's everybody under 30 stand up. And then 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23. And by the time they get to 23, it's me and one other dude like at the top right corner standing up. I'm like, please, God. Like, he goes 22 and I sit down, and the other guy was younger than me, thank God, right?
Yeah.
So they brought him on stage and they gave him a little prize and everything. But just to show you kind of how, out of my comfort zone I was.
For sure.
Know? And then, these guys were talking about starting vending machine businesses and buying tax liens, a lot of US-based stuff too, which doesn't really translate too much in Canada. But I left that conference learning three things. A, this word called, I understood what passive income was. It's not really passive, do nothing and stay at home, but you can manage it.
That's right.
Remotely.
It's not conventional work.
No, definitely not. And then this other word called cash flow. I was like, whoa, wow, what is this, right? And that you can generate cash flow from real estate. So that's it. I got home with that. And one thing led to another. By the time I was 24, I had at least a bit of money saved, and I was able to kind of buy my first property. And the only thing I could afford back then was to go to Hamilton and spend.
And this is year 2010.
This is 2010, yeah. $238,000, my first single family home, right?
Well, 2010, I sold in Toronto at VP and Danforth for $330,000.
There you go.
Single, detached, wartime brick home.
Same bungalows.
But $330,000.
Yep.
And this is exactly in 2010. So Hamilton would have been $230,000.
I couldn't afford that back then.
100%. I remember the days.
I remember that. So 5% down my first house. So, $12,500 I put down. And everyone laughed at me, like, Hamilton, the armpit of Ontario. I'm like, bro, that's what I can afford. Like, leave me alone. You know what I mean? Like, people laughing at your first car. Like,
of course.
What do you want, right?
1980, Mazda B2000, holes in the floor.
There you go. I had
just say
94's Cavalier Z24.
There you go.
And yeah, so I bought my first property, $12,500 down. I didn't even have money for closing costs. Like, my lawyer called me like 3 days before. He's like, "Hey, you didn't deposit enough money." I'm like, "What are you talking about, Jerry?" And he's like,
$12,500.
He's like, no, land transfer tax. I'm like, oh shit, right? You know what I mean? So I go scrounging for money, beg, borrowing, stealing. I was still living in my grandparents' house then, and I went in the closet, which was my mom's old closet, and she had, we're Italian, so my grandfather had a half Damigiano, like the half wine containers.
Yeah.
It was filled with pennies. I'm like, yep, mine. I smashed it, rolled all the pennies. Like, that's how
scrounge.
That's how I was grinding, right? And that was my first property. And then, I bought a couple more. And by the time I landed in recruit class for my, to be a fireman, I'd already had 3 little rental properties. So that was kind of the beginning of my career. And going forward from there, I wanted to keep going. And I decided that the best person to represent me going forward was going to be me. And that's why I got my real estate license. I really had no interest in helping others with transactions. I mean,
I do know a number of people who started being investors and became realtors only because the lack of data and the lack of training in the real estate field for investors. So you saying that doesn't surprise me, but it's such a perfect segue into where we're going with all this today.
Yeah.
So yeah, go on a little bit with, you have 3 properties, you're in the fire hall, you get your license. What's next?
I get my license, and then, I started in this, real estate investors back then, at least, it was a small group of people. Like, it wasn't popular, so we had our little network of people, and, I was young and had nothing to do, right? So other than work. So, older guys with families and kids, they'd ask me, "Hey, can you help me fill my property, like place a tenant," that kind of thing. So I was doing like these little odd jobs, and then, one thing led to another. They're like, "Oh, you have this good deal. How did you do it?" I'm like, "Well, I can kind of help you, but like, I don't really want to, but I can,
Yep.
And I started working with Rockstar. Good story about Rockstar. Great brokerage if you're investor focused. And I started there, and I'm still there, and I never left, and I probably never will. There's a great platform there for people who want to be investor-focused realtors. And I'm not trying to steal agents or anything.
No.
That's just my perspective.
No, but give credit where credit is due. If those guys have done something good for for their agents and for the industry, we should talk about it all day long.
Yeah.
That's nothing to shy away from.
Yeah, it was a little different, but it worked.
Tell me what you believe, and again, this podcast, Broker's Playbook, is B2B. It's from agent to agent, from brother to sister. And there's a massive gap of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
There's that huge knowledge gap
Yep.
between residential, emotional, family residential real estate,
Yep.
and the hard cold truth of a pro forma, of numbers, of risk, of why you're doing something that you're doing.
Correct.
I remember you said a few minutes ago that back then there wasn't this investor and all these, there was a small community. I want everybody to think about the world before income property. And that's a big shout out to my good friend, Scott McGilvery.
Yeah.
But the show on
HGTV.
HGTV showed, the beginning, the middle, and the end in a matter of 30 minutes.
Not even 22 minutes.
22 minutes. And it's a great show that really put real estate in the spotlight as to what real estate is capable of.
Correct.
Of what an everyday Joe can accomplish if they're dedicated.
It gave people an idea of what's accessible to the everyday person.
That's right.
You don't have to be. You don't have to buy an apartment building.
That's right.
A little duplex can do a lot.
It can do everything. It can change your entire destiny.
Correct.
But what that show did not show is the risk mitigation behind it. It did not show what can go wrong potentially. Most of the time it would show, a broken pipe or whatever the case may be. But I can tell you, without a doubt, real estate investing is not for the faint of heart. It is not easy. It is not turnkey. It is not anything. Mm-hmm. It requires time, patience, money, energy, and absolute discipline to your financial goals. The moment you let emotions stray decisions is the moment you start making mistakes, and those mistakes are not easily erased.
Yeah. I maybe you're going to delete this from the podcast, but
I probably won't.
I blame the agents overall 30%, and I blame our regulatory body the other 70%. Why? Because it's not that difficult to get your real estate license. And for anyone, me, you, to go get a real estate license in a couple months and then walk on the street and say, I'm an industrial real estate expert, that's insane. There needs to be a higher level of education and certification in order to represent somebody in an investment, I believe.
So I'll tell you what, and I love where you're going with this, because not only will this not make it, this is going to be pulled out as a highlight. First and foremost, there is available education. The problem is that it's not mandatory.
Yeah, I mean, you must reach this level before you can represent someone.
So the Real Estate Institute of Canada, CCIM,
that kind of stuff.
They're phenomenal courses. Mm-hmm. I specifically am very, very good friends with the CEO of the Real Estate Institute, and they have programs there that are like the Fellows of Real Estate and investment real estate. They go deep, and this is nothing short of what should be the standard.
Correct. Yeah.
So going back to RICO, for example, or to whatever organization is going to pass the law, if you want to be a residential realtor, no problem. The way it is just fine.
Fine.
But the moment that somebody discloses their intention, that they're making a secondary purchase for an investment, you should not be touching that with a 10-foot pole.
I agree. You should need to have another level of designation. You should be able to prove yourself. And for the consumer, I think the easiest way to determine if your representative is qualified is, and again, this is controversial, is to ask them if they have an investment property themselves. Because in my world, if you don't, you talk the talk, but you don't walk the walk.
That's right.
How do you represent someone that way? Doesn't make sense. It's like going to your doctor and he's giving you health advice, but he's hammering 2 double cheeseburgers and he's 30 pounds overweight. You can't. Doesn't make sense.
You can't. You simply can't.
You cannot, right? And that's where the mistakes happen. And that's the part where I blame the agents And it's not totally their fault. Everybody wants to make a sale, but if you don't know what you're doing, you can't give advice, right?
Watching the debacle over the last 2.5 years, we went from, I got licensed in '07. I was selling businesses in '06 without a license because business sales are outside of the scope of real estate. But I got my license in order to get into commercial real estate. That's what I've done since the beginning. And since '07 up until 2022, there has been, no matter what you say about the '08, '09, 2010 crash of the United States, it did not affect us the way it affected the United States.
Not even close.
2016, there was a little burp. I'm not going to even call it a hiccup.
Yeah. 3 months.
3 months. That was the Ontario Fair Housing Plan and kind of that adjustment. And then COVID's first 3 months where nobody knew what was going to happen. And then the explosion that followed into the best real estate years on record. Followed, of course, by the price that we had to pay for those years, which is the worst real estate market in 40 years. Mm-hmm. My question to you is, the 90% of the people reeling today are either homeowners that overspent money using their lines of credit because they thought money was free. That's simply the end user and such a fringe of the market. There's not that many that irresponsible people, not in this country anyways.
No.
Because I'll never forget the 3 C's for Canadians, which is conservative, chicken, and I won't say the thing.
Yeah.
But where I'm going with this is investors got hurt. And the investors who got hurt during this are not investors who were disciplined in the pro forma. No. They were speculators.
Yep.
For the predominant part, a lot of FOMO took place in the condominium market, specifically in Toronto, where, well, I'm not going to say in Toronto, because in Durham and in Peel, builders were increasing prices by 50 to 100,000 a week until sold out. So whether you want to call it greed, whether you want to call the consumer emotional, or I don't know how they made the decisions that they made. But looking back from the ride up to the point now where there's people closing and they're getting appraisals at $250,000 below value, what do you believe today's investor expects from a real estate professional?
Well, it's exactly what I mentioned earlier. Like you first of all, and you said it, speculators versus investors. I don't consider those people investors. Those are speculators. You're gambling. You're in Las Vegas. Like if you're buying a condo and from a plan, some box in the sky, and you expect that to be an investment, that's not. If the income doesn't cover the expense, it's not an investment. It's a speculation. So you speculated and you lost. It's not anyone's fault but yours, right? And I don't blame the developers, because now I'm on the developer side, and the developers are, what's the word? They're treated like the evil genius behind everything, but their margins are 7 to 13%. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. And if they don't make their money when they can, projects go belly up, as you see. Now, what do you have to expect from an investor agent now? You have to expect that their portfolio is being managed well. If the agent, this is my personal belief, if the agent you're working with bought 5 condos and 3 of them are underwater, I cannot take advice from that person. I simply cannot. But from the consumer side, you need to understand and educate yourself on what exactly you want your investments to do for you. We always preach cash flow because that creates a safety net, regardless if you expect equity appreciation or income or a little bit of both. Always, 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 always cash flow. This way you can survive the bumps. But as a consumer, you need to know whether this is a retirement plan. Is this property going to help put my kid through university or college? Is this just like I want a little extra cash flow so I can go on a better vacation every year, right? Like this is how we differentiate and filter with people. When I'm meeting with someone for the first time, I'm trying to figure out what their ultimate goal is so we can craft an investment to help them get there. You start with the end in mind, right? So, and as a consumer, you're not looking for a realtor, you're looking for an advisor. Someone who you can go with and say, hey, listen, I'm 45. I have a 10-year-old kid. They're going to go to school in 8 years. I want to have enough money for the university. How do I do that with investments? That's a very different question that says, what's the next condo project that's going to go up in value?
That's right.
Right? You get what I'm trying to say?
I do. As a matter of fact, we built and kind of trademarked the REAP, which is the Real Estate Action Plan. And we did that inside my firm. I don't know if you know Jazz Takar, that's my partner in REC. Myself and Jazz have been at this, the investment niche, just going on 19 years right now. And we really went deep on the intake. The intake is everything. Everything. So what questions to ask the person sitting at your table? What is their understanding of what you're going to do for them? In my opinion, is what's dictated and differentiated the success we've had and the growth we had versus the market.
Correct.
Being able to interpret your client's goals and objectives into an actionable set of mandates, I suppose.
Yeah.
Is a science, and it's not something that's taught anywhere.
No.
So unless you run into, you happen to be, again, from probably the one brokerage that I respect dearly in the space, Rockstar, but this is not the common. This is not the norm. And you have nightmare scenarios where there's heavy agent populations, like self-employed populations, like Markham, like Brampton, where you have newcomers coming from very different set of rules and limitations. Mm-hmm. And this isn't a matter on anybody from India or from China, or I'm saying, I don't care where you come from. You're not from an organized real estate background, because organized real estate only exists maybe in 5 or 6 markets planet-wide. And that's US, Canada, Australia. Britain has a version of an MLS. But that's kind of it.
Some Caribbean.
Some. And that's being very generous, because I've seen some of them. And this isn't a knock on anything. This is factually being able to give advice to someone who is making a decision on their entire life's work.
Well, the way I see it is, you go see your stockbroker or your financial planner, they have licenses all over the wall. And we have a 3-month course. It's the same thing.
And this is, again, kind of where if everybody took the time to ask the right questions, half the deals that were done would not have been done.
Correct.
We said no during the pandemic to probably, I will tell you, 300 to 400 clients that said, here is my money, put it in. And I said, I will not take your money because I can guarantee you will not close. You drive Uber for $18,000 a year while you wait to potentially get your degree from Korea recognized here.
You'll never get financing. Impossible.
You'll never get financing. So for me to take your money, to do a deal, for me to have to pay back the commissions later, and you to destroy your entire existence.
And you to destroy your reputation with the builder, right?
All the things.
Right.
So I think the overarching message is here, in this is not, if I don't mention it, it would be a disservice. In the Brokers Playbook community, in January of 2026, we're doing a soft launch through December, but we have created a brokerage agnostic community. So I don't care if you're a Royal LePage, Remax, EXP, Rockstar, whatever. The community has access to 3 major courses, the flagship courses, one of them being residential investment property specialist. And it is a very similar, maybe a little bit more robust. I go a little bit deeper than I did for Royal LePage because I had the freedom to do so. Royal LePage wanted to keep it a specific way, but the one I built for Royal LePage is significant. It's massive, and it teaches income properties, cash flow, resale. It teaches how to analyze and sell pre-construction, and it is how to sell and analyze short-term rental, and the risk associated with each housing type. People who were selling condos, I've seen this firsthand. They were selling condos in Toronto, and part of their pitch was you can Airbnb it for $400 a night. I just cannot imagine a world where the laws had already been implemented that you can't even Airbnb in Toronto, and this is part of people's pitches.
Yeah.
So you're literally sending your client into certain death financially, certain absolute death, because they're going to be $3,000 a month cash flow negative.
And imagine you as a regulated financial planner doing something like that.
You go to jail.
You go to jail.
charged.
You're jail. So that's my issue, right? That's my issue. But I think, not to beat a dead horse, but, guys like you, places like Rockstar, me, you try and teach and lead by example. And that's the only thing you can do, because I can't control the government and I don't want to control the government.
Or policy for that matter, or how it's going to change. Each government has its own ideas. That's kind of what we have been the victims of. The Trudeau era loaded such tremendous debt onto the government. They printed so much money where it had to get reframed. For better or for worse, anybody can be a genius after the fact.
Sure.
But when they were getting free money, they were celebrating. When they had to pay it back via their mortgages and other vehicles, everybody's crying foul. So I'm not going to talk politics on the show, and nor is my views something unknown. I am a conservative government supporter because of the nature of my business and that of all my clients and the way I live. But it's not like a conservative government would not have made the same mistakes necessarily. So I don't care to speak or blame, but we don't control the environment that we have to operate in.
Correct.
But what we do control is the due diligence and fundamentals.
Yeah, how you behave with your clients. That's it. Right.
So I love that. I love the way you want to be an example for your client. Can you tell me a little bit about clients who reach out to you right now to say, 3 years ago I made a mistake and I did this. How do I fix it? What is the biggest problem that you believe you're being approached for? Is it high interest rates? Is it equity erosion? What is kind of the major thing that people are calling you about?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I spent the last year and a half, almost 2 years, having these types of conversations because, I've worked with investors so long that, my clients have developed significant portfolios, 3, 5, 7, 10, 12 different properties, right?
Yeah.
Some multifamily, single family, some bigger properties. And I think people sort of lost their way. The future, I always say, if you want a real estate investor to transact, they need clarity for 12 months and beyond. In this last 2 or 3 years, where interest rates and the government has behaved, there has been almost no clarity. And you've seen real estate investors pull back. Can you blame them? No.
No, there's zero confidence in the market.
Zero confidence.
Zero confidence.
Zero. Some, okay, zero. Somewhere between zero and not so much.
Sure, sure.
Right? And people with significant portfolios, they start to question themselves. Did I make the right decisions? What do I do for the future? And after, and again, back to my earlier point, after asking myself those questions and reorganizing my own portfolio, selling some stuff, refinancing some other ones, improving some other properties, I now had a basis to give advice to my own set of clients, right? And we had to sit down and look at our portfolios holistically. Okay, this worked for this amount of time. The future is headed likely here and maybe there. So let's set up your portfolio to benefit regardless of what happens.
So you have to think like an investor.
You have to think.
Full stop.
You don't have, once you have, I think, once you're beyond 3 properties, you don't have rental properties anymore. You have a portfolio.
That's right.
And if you think of it like a portfolio, if I had something I would do with my dance there, you put your asset manager hat on. You're not an investor anymore. You're an asset manager. You remove emotion and you're looking at things as a whole. And this way, your bird's eye view and things become more clear. If it's cloudy here, you just got to move yourself up.
And to put some context into that for the agents or consumers for that matter, and you like investors watching or listening to this show, what we're referring to is at that point when you're acquiring a new property into your portfolio, you're not going to accept mechanical systems that are already at the end of life without either taking a credit for them off the purchase price. You're not going to be ignoring the membrane on the roof if it's a sand and gravel roof. You're not going to overlook asphalt outside. You're not going to underestimate plumbing systems and Kitech and all the different things that you may have heard of in your career as an agent or in your career as an investor. You now have your checklist. You have your due diligence reports. Mm-hmm. You will not accept anything that doesn't fit the mold because an investor or an asset manager, for that matter, knows that there's more fish in the sea.
Always. No emotion.
No emotion. And the biggest mistake I've seen agents make is sell a client on a property, because that will always come back. Because then once you've sold somebody on something, you have put the weight on your shoulders.
Yep.
And how much weight can your shoulders take?
Correct. And it's your reputation. Like I have a small team, and we don't sell the property. We maintain a relationship.
That's right.
Because if you taught the course, I'm sure you know this, when you're working with investors, if you're doing a good job, it's never one transaction. It could be 20.
That's right.
Right? So if you have to back off a property and you're like, oh man, we were right there at inspection, it sucks, I just lost X commission check. But you didn't lose it. If you guide this person, it's extra work, these people are going to be so loyal to you. You're just seeing it incorrectly. You're on the transaction treadmill.
That's right.
Get off the treadmill.
That's right.
Right? Respect the people and they'll respect you back. Not only will they do more transactions, they'll refer you their friends and their uncles and aunts.
All day.
You know what I mean?
All day.
Just take care of the people.
A consultant and a transaction and a transactional person are two very different things. A consultant is called a consultant because he is a trusted advisor.
Yeah.
He is called in to give his opinion, and his insight is respected. Mm-hmm. The transaction is the exact opposite.
Right.
Transactions are the result of great advice.
Correct.
Yeah. With that being said, I think we've really hammered down home that in order to get into this niche, which, again, I'm not going to ask you if you think it's worth it. You've built your life on it. I've built my entire career, my entire team's careers on this niche, additional to residential real estate. For any agent out there thinking like, I'm not a math person, or, I don't know how to do this, or it sounds like a lot. It's not. It requires focus. It requires specific tools, and all those things not only exist, they have been fine-tuned in order to be able to be added to your toolbox so you too can participate in creating your entire client roster. Think you have 200 past clients. I can guarantee you can pull out 200 transactions minimum over the next 2 years out of that database. How? By changing the way you speak and changing the questions that you ask. And if you were to do that, you are going to have the best years of your career ahead of you. Paul, thank you. I'm going to cut it right here because we're going to go into kind of like the bonus podcast after. And that is, now that our brothers and sisters understand what this world entails, we're going to go into the system scaling in future for investment-focused advisors, meaning what kind of systems do we use? How do we scale our clients with events? What kind of events to throw? And that's going to be in the members-only community for Brokers Playbook, and of course, your entire VIP list as well.
Sure.
Thank you for watching Brokers Playbook. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you on the members only.